Okay, we got a we got us a nice little mock draft for today. Um, Trying to get everything set up here. Ugh, my eyes. Sorry, I'm just getting everything ready to go. All right. Whew. My nose. All right. This probably will be going up on my YouTube as well, but we'll see. Uh, I said my mic had no signal, but there was nothing to do. I wanna see if I can get a little. I just want to get a little like background music because there's no. Oh,
No matter what you create,
that's not what I was doing.
no matter what.
Here we go. That's loud. Okay. Yeah, just a little bit of background music. No biggie. So I want to see if I can have it on a loop. Sorry, it's my first time doing this in a while. All right, whatever. I'll just have it up. Anyway, this is the first post trade deadline draft that I'm doing. I'll probably be doing more. I have all 3 rounds here. I might not do all 3 rounds. I'll see what time is when I get done with the first round. We will genuinely just be playing it by ear. Other people are supposed to be up in here, but probably not, which is fine. No worries there. Just getting everything situated on my phone. All right. So, first pick is going to be the Saints, and I really like what they didn't do at the deadline. What they did do was they traded away Shaheed for a 4th and a 5th, I'm pretty sure. And then on top of that, they traded away Trevor Penning to end the day. With and I think they got a 6th round pick. So that's nothing too terrible, nothing too crazy. but they're in a quarterback need position. Now, I think about this a lot because I look at Fernando Mendoza, 25 touchdowns, 4 picks with a 130 passer rating. That's really good. When you look at like all the games he's played across his career, this is definitely a really good game for him. But I look at Ty Simpson, and definitely yet less yards. Actually, I think it might be more at this point. Yeah, more yards, less touchdowns, a lower passer rating. But when I'm looking at let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to get like here, let's try this. No, that's like there we go. We'll play the song back again. When I look at Ty Simpson, he does have also less yards per attempt, so he is throwing the ball more. What I like out of him, though, just from what I've seen, he's a lot better decisively against arguably better competition. He did struggle in the South Carolina game, but one thing, and I mean Fernando Mendoza, he also struggled in the Oregon game. But I think I really like Ty Simpson because I feel he's more NFL ready. So that's why I'm going to go Ty Simpson as my first. I think Fernando Mendoza is great. I think if you go with either one, you are not making a poor decision. I personally am just higher on Ty Simpson right now than Fernando Mendoza, and I think that could very easily change, as we progress through the season. Let me. Okay. Now the Titans are up, and the Titans are in a really, really kind of weird position. I think that's good. And not because, I think, they're obviously bad. But they have a lot of weird question marks. They traded away one of their most productive edge rushers in the season. They didn't do anything else for the deadline. L'Jarius Sneed hasn't been great, which is why they need a corner. And then obviously the O-line help. The O-line play has been terrible in Tennessee. And I look at Rueben Bain Jr., and he has just been, 37 quarterback hurries is insane. Obviously not a lot of sack numbers since his 23 campaign, but he's still been really productive. I think he's arguably one of the best edge rushers in this draft. I like TJ Parker just a tiny bit more, just based off skill alone. That being said, I don't think the Titans are going to go O-line here. I think they really need to focus on the defense because Cam Ward has been shown to even make plays while having poor O-line play. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but I am saying that it's more of a need to focus on the defense right now. I think the Titans do go edge here. I think they could also go Caleb Downs. I think that would also be a great get for them. I just think that addressing quarterback pressure is going to be a big thing for Tennessee because they are keeping Simmons as well. They didn't move on from him, obviously, at the trade deadline. So I think they're going to get Rueben Bain Jr. here. I think that this is going to be a really good get for Tennessee. Also, Cam Ward and Rueben Bain did play together, obviously not on the same side of the ball, but we'll see that connection, and then hopefully they can build off of each other in practice. Now the Jets, they're going to go quarterback here. They haven't been in love with Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor's play. This is where Fernando Mendoza goes. I think Mendoza goes to the Jets. I think Ty Simpson is going to be an immediate start. And I think that with the Jets still having one more year of Justin Fields, they'll probably play Justin Fields partway through the season, then go to Fernando Mendoza. I think Ty Simpson's just coming from a better pure pocket passing system, and that's what New Orleans is probably going to be more drawn to over Fernando Mendoza. But then again, that's just me. I could be talking, completely wrong here. Dolphins have a lot of direction, so they moved off Jalen Phillips, but they held on the rest of their guys. I don't really know the direction they want to take this in, because obviously Tyreek Hill is out, probably indefinitely. He might retire. And then on top of that, you also have Jalen Waddle still there. Tua is been horrid recently, like absolutely horrid. And then, like I said, they sat on Bradley Chubb, but they moved off Jalen Phillips. So I don't really know what to think of this team. And then the offensive line needs addressed. The interior offensive line needs addressed. So obviously, I don't think any of these guys are top 4. Maybe Connor Lew. Connor Lew, his overall grade says one thing. He's been really decent for the Tigers, excluding the Oklahoma game. I'm not like I said, you can look at stats, you can look at grades, but if you watch football, sometimes the eye test just tells you enough. So I kind of go back and forth on what I think the Dolphins are going to do. Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate that. What's going on? What's good? Chilling, talking football. So, I really do think that the Dolphins will move in a more offensive direction rather than defense, because the offense has definitely sputtered at times while the defense has been able to kind of hold its own, like we saw earlier with the Bills. That being said, I do think either Peter Woods or TJ Parker are good picks here to boost a defense that needs a little bit more assistance. That being said, I think I don't know. I feel like I always toss up. I don't see them going Jordan Tyson. That just feels wrong. I don't really see them going quarterback either. I think they have a lot of faith in Tua still internally. I just don't see it happening. One guy who I do like for them, though, is Spencer Fano. He has been a huge offensive production guy. I mean, literally in the last 3 seasons, 3 sacks given up, only 7 quarterback hits, and he's played great. Definitely, I think Spencer Fano is going to be the first lineman taken off the board, and this is a Will Campbell situation where he's going to be plug and play immediately. Giants, I'm having a hard time with, because they can go multiple routes here. Obviously, Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo are going to come back from injury, on top of the Giants having complete faith in Jackson Dart at this point. So you definitely need the offensive line help, because the offensive line play in New York has been absolutely god-awful. So Maui Goa is someone who I look at for the Giants just because of his strict play at right tackle, protecting that strong side of Jackson Dart. However, it just feels like it's a little too early. It's a little too early for someone who's also been seen giving up more sacks than he did last year. Obviously, last year Miami had an elite mobile quarterback in Cam Ward, so it kind of changes the situation a little bit. The Giants also need secondary help pretty bad, and I think given the way the secondary's panned out this season, I mean, we saw the Cowboys throw all over them. We saw the Broncos were able to throw all over them in that comeback victory. The secondary has definitely been a major addressing need for the Giants. So I think here at the 5 spot, Caleb Downs is the best position to be drafted by the Giants. Now, Cleveland's going to be a little upset at this because they've been looking at Caleb Downs. They love their OSU guys. But wide receiver play in Cleveland has been terrible. Tight end play has been, on the rise because of Harold Fannin Jr. Running back play has been great with Quinshon Judkins. The defense has been pretty stifling. But the offensive line has been horrible. Horrible. But if you're going to make these rookie quarterbacks succeed, you need to go out and get them a wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy has been god-awful this year. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, you don't really have a top receiving target. So, in my opinion, I think this is where Jordan Tyson goes. I think Jordan Tyson goes to the Browns. I think Jordan Tyson will then, because he's a bigger guy. Yeah, 6'2", 200. He's a taller guy, and I think he's gonna provide a lot of blanket for this offense that desperately needs another weapon within it. Now the Raiders, The Raiders sat this trade deadline, excluding giving up Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is now in Jacksonville. While I really like Jacoby Myers in Jacksonville, I think that's a great fit. What I don't like for the Raiders is that wide receiver core is horrid now. It's pretty stinky. But Geno Smith also is terrible. So you have two glaring needs on top of the multiple defensive needs. If I'm the Raiders, I have to go out and get a quarterback. And I have to go out and get a quarterback from a winning system who I can pair with my explosive young wide running back. And I think this is where Dante Moore goes. I think Dante Moore goes at 7 to the Raiders. I think they give up on Geno. The experiment's been horrible. Go ahead and get Dante Moore in there. Is it the best option? No, but I think it's a good option. And now the Cardinals. This is kind of similar to last year. The Cardinals picking ahead of the Bengals again. Cardinals, a lot of different directions they could go with. Kyler Murray is looking like he might be on his way out because the offense has been terrible with him. But the O-line play in Arizona has also not been great. On top of that, Marvin Harrison is seen to be a great shining new star in this offense. Trey McBride is still very explosive. The running back room is cause for concern in Arizona. But one thing also that they have had not very good play at within the defense is the front seven. The secondary, especially last night against Dallas, looked fantastic. All the rookies showed out. Will Johnson looked good. Denzel Burke, Will Johnson played. Will Johnson and Denzel Burke both looked good. But one thing I would like to see the Cardinals get is just a tiny bit more pressure. They signed Walter Nolan, and he made his debut last night. They drafted Walter Nolan first round last year, and he looked good. So one thing I would want to pair with him is a really explosive edge, and I think this is where TJ Parker goes. I think TJ Parker pairing on the strong side of Walter Nolan, I think that's going to be a really nice duo. Opposite Josh Sweat, I really like this move. This really gives the Cardinals kind of a physical identity on defense. Now the Bengals, who are horrible in every metric of defensive standing. So you could really go anyone here. What I want to see out of the Bengals is to get someone who is explosive, who is a true strong-headed playmaker, and I think Arvell Reese goes to Cincinnati. I think Arvell Reese makes too much sense. They just traded Logan Wilson to Dallas this morning. The two rookie linebackers that they have are not great. Now, replacing one of them with another rookie linebacker might not be the biggest thing, but Arvell Reese is having a breakout season under the Buckeyes. And he's lined up on the D-line a majority of his, in the box. He's lined up a couple at corner, a couple in the slot. This is a versatile guy you want the Bengals to go out and get. He's also not very old. He's a junior. He's also huge. He's 6'4", 240. This is a big guy that you can go ahead and plug and play in that Buckeyes defense with Al Golden, who likes his Swiss Army knife guys. Granted, I don't know if Al Golden is still going to be there next season, but it gives me a little bit of hope. So I think the Bengals go out and get Arvell Reese if he's there. If he's not there, I would see them going either Peter Woods or Jermond McCoy. That being said, I would prefer Arvell Reese. Not trying to be a biased OSU guy, but all opinions stem from somewhere. Washington's been bad. Washington has been bad. The secondary has been horrible. They haven't really gotten a whole lot of pressure. The front seven super old, excluding a couple names in Washington. I think this is where they go ahead and get a corner, and I think Jermond McCoy makes kind of too much sense here. Obviously, not a whole lot of things to go off of. He's a shorter guy. He's a skinnier guy, but Washington's normally drawn to that. I want to look up... So in 2024, 4 picks, 7 passes deflected. And he was it was Oregon State the year before is where he was. Yeah, obviously not playing any today or this season. What was the injury? Was it an ACL? I don't know what this music is. We're going to change that. Yeah, torn ACL. Okay, that's what I thought. So, obviously, it's kind of hard to gauge that. Yeah, we're not doing that. So we're not. It's really hard to gauge that. But they like their smaller, quicker guys. They could also go Delane here. I think this would also be a really good pick. And now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I think I'm going to switch to it. I really like him here. Oh, let me see the top 7. All right, this is what I have so far. Any thoughts or anything? And if you can't see them, I like. Yeah, look, man. So my reason for Ty Simpson over Mendoza is just because I think Ty Simpson is a better pure pocket passer. I think that he's more of a plug and play ready guy for Indiana, or not for Indiana. I'm sorry, for New Orleans. Fernando Mendoza will then be going to a team where Justin Fields has one more year on his contract. And then, we can see how that quarterback battle shapes up from there. I think Spencer Fano has been obviously the best tackle of this draft. Dolphins need offensive line help crucially. And Spencer Fano is also a very large guy who can move on the interior. He's played both the left and right side of the ball, but he's never played interior before. But I think because he's just a large human being, you could place him there. Caleb Downs, I think, to the Giants makes too much sense. That secondary has been horrible. It's great value at 5, where you arguably get the best defensive player in all of college football. Jordan Tyson goes to the Browns at 6. The Browns being one of the more offensive needy teams in this draft. Bigger receiver. Jerry Jeudy isn't cutting it. Dante Moore going to the Raiders. The Geno experiment's over. And then TJ Parker, finally a pure edge rusher coming to the Cardinals to put opposite Josh Sweat. I think this gives them a really hardy, in-your-face defense identity. The secondaries look great with all these young guys. I think TJ Parker would be great opposite Josh Sweat, like I said, helping Walter Nolan also get some of that pressure off him because he just started. He just got his first debut. Giants would turn into a legit defense. I absolutely agree. And then I think Bengals go ahead and replace one of these terrible rookie linebackers that they got with Arvell Reese. I think this would be a great get for the Bengals. He literally does everything on the Ohio State defense. That's what the Bengals need. The Bengals need someone who is pure Swiss Army knife. This would make the Bengals have a defense. Just this one player. Washington, I think they're going to go corner here. Their corner has been terrible. Cornerback play has been terrible. Marshawn Lattimore tore his ACL. He might be done. So I think Mansour Delane makes too much sense here at 10. Now, it says the Baltimore Ravens need a wide receiver, but they don't like a whole lot of wide receivers. They like their running back play. They like their tight end play. That's what John Harbaugh loves as a coach. Or not, I don't know. One of the Harbaughs. They like more tight end play. They like more running back play. Would Reese... Oh, for sure. I think he would go over Demetrius Knight. Barrett Carter has shown more flashes in the run game. In my opinion, just from watching, Barrett Carter's shown more flashes in the run game rather than Demetrius Knight. Demetrius Knight does have a pick or two, but he also has a lot of missed tackles. So I think Reese would go over Demetrius Knight. But like I was saying, the Ravens, I don't really see them going wide receiver here. Even though it says they need wide receiver, there's a whole lot of other things they need to address. Like the defense. Defense is always hurt. Secondary is always hurt. Defensive line's always hurt. And their offensive line, yes, is hurt, but they still make it work. Derrick Henry can still do things at his age. Lamar Jackson, granted, he is also hurt right now. It's a lot of injury happening. But I think what the Ravens need to do is get themselves another player that can be a impactful defensive mind with Roquan Smith. And I think this is where Peter Woods goes. I think Peter Woods falls a little bit just because of positional value, and then I think he will go to the Ravens, and this is going to be a huge get for them. Now, I have trouble with the Atlanta pick just because they could go multiple ways here. They could reach and they could take one of these quarterbacks early. They absolutely could. We've seen it happen in years previous. But I don't think it happened here because of how Stafford is looking. I think Stafford's looking very well. He is staying healthy. He's getting his throws off. He's pushing through. So I think what they're going to focus on is getting more offensive line help. And this is where I think Maui Goa goes. I think he goes to the Rams. I think they bolster that line, and Maui Goa is an abnormal human being, 6'6", 315. Only 2 sacks on the year, like I said, but he is a stat right tackle. And I think putting that on the strong side of Matt Stafford is huge. This guy is massive. You could probably, hopefully, the line can shift around to work in that favor, but I really think the Rams go offensive tackle here. Sadiq. Yeah. He could. I think they like Terrence Ferguson a little too much. But I do agree that the Rams also like their tight ends. Given their production though offensively, I think that the O-line makes more sense, but I don't disagree with you. That Sadiq also makes sense. The Texans, I think O-line is a bigger address right now than the running back problem. I think to be a competent team, you're going to first need a O-line to not only protect your quarterback. Oh my gosh, that was loud. Come on, just a little bit. All right, there it goes. Whatever. I think the O-line play is more important right now, and obviously you look at all of the O-line prospects. If I'm the Texans here, I want a dynamic guy and I want a huge guy, and I think that's where Caden Proctor comes in. Caden Proctor is a massive specimen of a person, and we've seen him in Alabama all year not just play left tackle, which is where CJ Stroud needs the most help. On his weak side protection. He gets blindsided all the time. 6'7", 366. And you can look at all this, and you can say that you think Caden Proctor slides down a little bit, or that Jeremiah Love is more of an importance within the Texans' eyes. But in my opinion, if you can't protect the quarterback, then there's nothing more that needs to be said. Oh my gosh. There it goes. That's all I wanted. Just a little music. So that's my opinion on how the Texans should draft. I think it needs to, Stroud has been showing up in a lot of these games. I think Caden Proctor needs to be the Texans' prerogative. Now, Cowboys just traded for Logan Wilson, and they just traded for Quinnen Williams. Huge gets on both sides. What I will say is the rest of the Cowboys defense hasn't looked great. On top of that, George Pickens probably isn't staying. It's floating around that like he's probably not staying. So there's a lot of things that we could change about how the Cowboys draft. Because obviously defensive line isn't going to be a super huge concern. You just went out and got Quinnen Williams. And you have Rashawn Gary. Or not Rashawn Gary. Is it Kenny Clark? Whoever they got from the Packers in the Micah Parsons trade. What I will say is I don't think they'll draft a wide receiver because Dak has been showing promise to like throwing to guys like Kayvon Turpin, That other wide receiver who had that huge game against the Jets, he's just kind of throwing it to anyone, you know? Jamal Williams has looked great at running back. I really do think that Jamal Williams has found a home within Dallas. At least if I'm Dallas, I'm treating it that way. But a guy I really like, and a guy who I think should immediately be Javonte, yes. Yes. Can't you tell I'm having such a coherent day? I definitely think that with the Cowboys, they should go and get someone who is going to be an immediate playmaker, especially on this defense. And I'm trying to think of who that would be, because I don't see them going wide receiver here. I just don't. I'll wait for the ad to end so I can discuss this further. Edge rusher LB. Oh yeah. I guess you're subbed. I was thinking linebacker. I really was. But I don't think there's a linebacker I really want to see in Dallas at this point. Maybe CJ Allen. CJ Allen's been pretty good all season. But when I look at the names, I look at Keldrick Falk, and I really like him. I do. He's really explosive, and he's played everywhere on this Auburn defense. And I really think that that's what Dallas needs, is someone who can kind of be shifted around and be situational. But look at that. We're not even all the way through the season. 21 hurries already. His sack numbers have gone down, yes. But when you look at the defensive snaps, look at that. Run snaps, pass rush, we're seeing a larger split. So he's more of a pass rushing guy. Sorry, my wife texted me. I really do like Cedric Falk. I also like Caleb Banks. I like Caleb Banks. Obviously the one game played. And then David Bailey is also a name who I really, really like. He's pretty much just pure edge rusher, but obviously 12 sacks on the season is hard to ignore. I think given Dallas's defense and how and how they are really trying to find an identity post Micah Parsons, I think that David Bailey seems like the best answer. So I'm going to go David Bailey in Dallas. Now, this one's easy. Vikings, Jeremiah Love. It makes so much sense that it's unfathomable to make another pick. Aaron Jones is regressing. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones is regressing. Jordan Mason's all right. But Jeremiah Love is looking like a clear Heisman candidate day in, day out within the Notre Dame offense. I really, really like him. In Minnesota, gives J.J. McCarthy another weapon to work with. I really like it here. I think it's great. And then we get to the Panthers. And I never know what to do for Carolina, because I feel like every time I look at them, they have more holes than they have complete pieces. Obviously, the running back room is a question. Obviously, getting to the quarterback is a question. The secondary is locked down, and the wide receiver room's been looking all right. It's really hard to say. I'm sorry, just one second. I always have a big question when it comes to Carolina. It just feels like I don't know what direction this team is trying to find, but what I do know is this. They don't have a good tight end. Bryce Young would benefit from a good tight end. Sadiq to Carolina, in my opinion, makes a whole lot of sense. You give this young, mobile quarterback an explosive target to work with. 5 touchdowns. So he's already doubled his red zone production this season. And, 14.1 yards a reception is crazy. 6'3", 245? Yeah, man. Put him in Carolina. All right. The Chiefs, I never know about the Chiefs. This is where Sadiq could also go as the Kelsey replacement if the Panthers wanted to more go like edge or something. But one thing that the Chiefs have been doing very poorly is defending the pass. Like, they cannot get pressure on the quarterback in a shotgun formation. They have a really hard time through the air with this. So I definitely am looking at guys like Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell has 23 quarterback hurries. He had 24 last year. And we are 8 games in and he has 23. I really think this is a guy that would thrive in a Steve Spagnuolo defense. Sorry. Getting a text from my group. Sorry. Jade's talking to me about some stuff. Anyway. Yeah. I think the Chiefs could go like a guy like Cassius Howell. I also think could also where Kedrick Falk goes. Being a very maneuverable guy on defense. Both of these, in my opinion, make sense. 21 hurries here, 23 hurries here, 10 sacks on the season though. That's huge. He only has 2. Granted, he's been playing more around the field, so it's what position do you value more? And based just off of a pure rusher, Howell might not go here, and they might take Falk here. And given the Steve Spagnuolo defense, I think this also makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm gonna go Falk here. The Bears. I don't know, man. Need a D-line. Bad. Linebacker room's been pretty decent, but not really a whole lot outside of that. We have a lot of receivers here. Not really a running back outside of Jeremiah Smith. I think is first-round talent. Definitely Coleman, I think, is a guy to watch. He is insane. But I definitely think that they need someone who's going to be an immediate impactor on this defense. And I think this is where they're going to go ahead and draft Caleb Banks. I think Caleb Banks is going to go ahead and go to Chicago. Now, for the Browns, you already picked Jordan Tyson. You have a very good defensive line already. You just traded for Campbell from Jacksonville for Greg Newsome. You definitely have a couple questions going into your season. One of them being the offensive line, and I think the Browns are going to go ahead and get the first guard off the board, and they're going to get Ione from Penn State. And this is a guy who hasn't given up a sack in 2 years. Only 1 quarterback hurry this season, and he's only played 7 games. I really like him. 6'4", 330, and he's just been skyrocketing. I really think Cleveland just goes ahead and solidifies that interior just a little bit more. Steelers need a quarterback. They're going to have to move off of Aaron Rodgers relatively soon because of his age, obviously. But they also need a couple other offensive line helps. The tackles have been a big issue. The secondary has also been a very big issue for the Steelers. It's been a massive hole. And given the quarterbacks that are left, and like I said, we can see quarterbacks jump. We can see these guys go ahead and take a quarterback early. We've seen it happen before. I just don't know if it happens here. I don't know if there's a guy the Steelers necessarily like that much at quarterback. Maybe Lenora Sellers, just based off his athleticism. Maybe Sam Levitt. I don't see guys like Nussmeier, John Mateer. I don't see really any of these guys going first round. But what I will say, though, is that secondary is a really, really, really gaping hole. And Terrell has had a really good season at Clemson. And he's also, like I said, he's lined up everywhere. He's got a couple on the D-line. He's played a lot more slot than he has this year. Corner, obviously, and then he's played more in the box this year and more deep this year. I definitely think that kind of versatile secondary need is a huge get for the Steelers. Wide receiver, I could also see them going. DK hasn't been super productive, and outside of DK Metcalf, their biggest targets are their tight ends. So Carnell Tate also makes a whole lot of sense here for the Steelers, but I think CB is more of a glaring issue because it's one of the reasons why they aren't winning games. But then you think about, positional value when you look at all these wide receivers. Do you really value Carnell Tate that much more over guys like, Mekhi Lemon or Avon Terrell? I mean, all of these really make sense, to be honest. And when you look at Lemon, especially, 15.5 yards of reception is very good positional value, but I really think Terrell is going to be a hard pass if the Steelers take a wide receiver. I think it'll be really hard. Lions are tough. They're having a couple offensive line problems as well. And one guy I really like for them, and I did this in my personal mock, I took Connor Lew pretty early for them. Connor Lew has been a lifetime center, and I really think that having him on the interior, maybe not center, but on the interior of the offensive line is really good. I mean, he's a little bit on the shorter side, 6'3", 303. That being said, they need the interior line help, and there's not really a guy who you could prioritize more. And the Lions have a history of drafting guards early. You could look at tackles, and you could look at maybe Dunker, who's had a decent season in Iowa. You could look at Austin Sheverfield, who's been fantastic at Ohio State at the left tackle. I mean, there's a lot of things you can really look at here. But again, it's cornerbacks. Cornerbacks are a big need for the Lions too. And I think here is where Jermon McCoy goes. I think he falls, obviously, because of the ACL injury, but I think McCoy will go to the Lions, and they'll rehab him. And Dan Campbell will get him working. All right. Chargers. I know offensive line is a need because everyone gets hurt. But with this season, everyone's going to come back. Everyone's going to come back. Everyone's going to be healthy. It'll be fine for the Chargers. One thing I do think they do need to address is the defensive edge. They cannot attack the quarterback right now. Cassius Howell is the best pure rusher, in my opinion, in this league. I just selected the wrong guy. All right, so imagine I put Cassius Howell here. I selected the wrong guy. My goodness, I fucking selected Romello. Wish I could go back a pick. Anyway, whatever, fine. It's no big deal. Same thing with the Niners, honestly. They also need an edge. They also need offensive line help. But like I said, edge right now is a better positional value than offensive line. And I think honestly you could go either one of these guys, but I think Cassius Howell will go first, and then Romello Wright will go right after. Now, Dallas has already picked David Bailey. And I think to replace the wide receiver, because I think they're going to lose George Pickens wholeheartedly, I think they're going to go ahead and get Lemon here. And now the Bills. Bills need a lot of defensive help. They're kind of making it work with their offense currently. One position of need really for the Buffalo Bills is cornerback, and I think Colton Hood goes here. Colton Hood has been basically the primary corner, passer rating of 60, not terrible. 6 foot 195, nothing too crazy. The Seahawks. So the Seahawks just drafted Rashid Shaheed, so they're pretty much set in the wide receiver position. I think this is a very front-loaded wide receiver class. One thing that the Seahawks do need, though, is to address their defense, obviously. And one thing that I do like about their defense is somehow, some way, someone makes a play, especially in the secondary. And they just got Nick Emanwari last year. Obviously, Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen has kind of been up and down, so you have some questions about the secondary. But you look down the list, and you don't really see anyone besides A.J. Harris, who I'm not super high on. Terrible this year, just grade-wise. He's been horrible. So I'm not really looking for a corner right now if I'm Seattle. You can look at some of these other offensive tackles. You can look at Caleb Lamu. You could look at, like I said, Duckner, Sheverfield, or Shireveld. Sireveld is, I think, how you actually pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, Seahawks have not really a whole lot of glaring issues, in my opinion. One thing I would like to see more of, though, is just overall protection of Sam Darnold, because the run game hasn't been super great this year. So what I will say is going Connor Lew here makes a lot of sense. I want to look at the Seahawks offensive line. Yeah, I mean, it's you can't really see anything because I don't have the PFF, lol. Here, we'll pull this up. Yeah. Anthony Bradford. I think is that their tackle or their... Oh, no, I remember him. That's one of their guards. Yeah. So, obviously the interior does need a little bit of help. I would like to see Connor Lew here. I would also like to see Jake Slaughter here. I really like both these guys personally. But for first round talent, I think I definitely think Connor Lew's best available. And now we have the Rams. So the Rams have a very, very stout defense already. They already would draft the tackle in this position. So you have a lot of wide receivers, you have some D linemen, you have some edge rushers. It kind of makes you think what direction they want to go in. And I think having 2 first-round picks really helps the Rams because they can get the guys they want. That being said, I really think the Rams could go quarterback here. I think they could reach early and get a guy like Sam Levitt, like Lenoris Sellers. But I don't know which one they would go. Personally, given the arm talent alone, I think they go ahead and take Sam Levitt at 27. I think they reach. I think they go ahead and get Sam Levitt. The Broncos are in dire need of a playmaker. They have 2 guys at wide receiver who they really like in Troy Franklin and Courtland Sutton. The running back play has been decent with RJ Harvey now taking a big step. But Evan Ingram, disappointing at tight end. Disappointing. Obviously, given that Sadiq is off the board, the Broncos aren't going to look tight end here. What I do think they do, however, is they get another wide receiver. They get another guy for Bo Nix to throw to, and who better than 6'3", 195 Carnell Tate? I think this gives the Broncos another layer of an offense. They can run that 3 wide out system. They can kind of move away from having to rely on a tight end so much by having a two guys with huge catch radiuses in Cortland Sutton and Carnell Tate. I think the Broncos go ahead and make this very big move. The Bucks. I never know about the Bucks. I never know about the Bucks. And maybe my buddy Schlim here, because he is a Bucks fan, maybe he can weigh in a little bit. Let me see. Maybe he's gone. He do be a busy man. But anyway, I never know. I'm here. Okay, word. What do you think? What do you think for Bucks? I never remember. I never have an opinion on the Buccaneers. Given this draft board and what like currently sits. Obviously, you're not going to go wide receiver again. I don't know what the hell this music is. LB. It'll be Levante's time soon. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if we genuinely think LB, it's definitely going to be a hard, it'll be a hard get, but then you look at Sonny Styles. Obviously, he's the biggest thing that you look. He's played in the slot, he's played in D-line, he's played in the box. These Ohio State linebackers are both very versatile. Sorry, my nose itches. And it's hard not to like him. He is a heat-seeking missile. And I think being on the higher end, you can kind of reach on a guy like this and be happy with it. I think Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense here. Patriots need wide receiver help. No matter what way you shape it, they need wide receiver help. Stephon Diggs has had one game where he was truly impactful. Pop Douglas is showing out. The tight end play has been pretty weak. But outside of that, Drake May is making it work. But I think he would benefit from a guy like Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston in this offense would be magical. 6'4", 209. And you're talking a guy 15.2 yards a reception? Are you kidding me? He would thrive. He would thrive. Eagles, they made a lot of trades. They traded for Jair Alexander. They traded for Jalen Phillips. They traded for Tank Bigsby. And they traded for a corner from the Jets in giving up John Mechie. But the Eagles also like their opportunistic picks. Even if it's not a super big position of need, they'll still go out and get it if it's good. And I think the Eagles might be looking wide receiver here. A.J. Brown obviously has had a lot of talk with this team. Smitty has been great. But really outside of those two, obviously Dallas Goedert has had a big resurgency season. But you want more. You're trying to maintain your top status. You want more. And genuinely, Chris Brazzell makes too much sense. I think he would be really, really good in this offense. And now the Jets. You're holding on to Garrett Wilson. You're holding on to Breece Hall. You don't have a true wide receiver 2. And I think Casey Concepcion gives you that. With your new pick in Fernando Mendoza, I think you go out and you get another wide receiver to end off your draft. Get Casey Concepcion. He's a great punt returner. He is amazingly fast. And he can play in much congruency with Carnell Tate because he's 5'11", he's 190. He's a shorter guy. He's a quicker guy. So I really think he would thrive in this system. And now we kind of are getting into, where are we going to fill out needs? Because we're officially in the second round now. First one is the Saints. Obviously, like I said, they draft Ty Simpson. They just moved off Shaheed. you would have hoped that one of these wide receivers would have fallen. And you don't want to kind of reach on any of these guys right here. So that's the big, sorry. So it's kind of hard to, think about what's the best way to go. But what I think that the Saints need to look at is some of the interior O-line. And like I said, not a lot of huge names here, but the Saints have been known to go ahead and reach on some guys. I'm looking at DJ Campbell, but I don't know if I like him right here this early. One thing I do think the Saints need to do is address the D-line help. Outside of Cameron Jones, or not Cameron Jones, is it Cam Jones? Cam something. Cameron Jordan, the DE, I think you need some more pressure, and I think definitely Christian Miller helps here. He's also a very good run blocker. I could definitely see him going this early to the Saints. He's a 6'4", 310. He's a big guy. You could also go LT Overton, but I'm not super high on him. I think he's rated a little bit too highly in this mock. I think Christian Miller is definitely the good get here for the Saints. Titans, you already drafted Bain Jr. You got your edge of the future, hopefully, and now you need to protect Cam Ward. Dunk nurse here. This is easy. So Jets, you focus on the offense. You just lost Sauce Gardner. You also just lost Quinnen Williams. You need someone who is going to fill up this defense in a big way. And I think Caden McDonald is going to go to the Jets. I think Jets like their OSU guys. I think Caden McDonald's a really big dude who is going to be that big run gap filler for the New York Jets. Dolphins went ahead and they got Spencer Fano, but like I said, they also need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of edge rushers here, and I think that they go ahead and they take best name available in LT Overton. I really also like Mason Thomas. Mason Thomas is really good. For the Sooners, he's been pretty productive. Quincy Rhodes, another name to watch. He's got 20 hurries already on the season, but the Dolphins also like their guys from Bama. That's just a historic fact. They like their guys from Alabama. I think LT Overton finds a home here. We already got Caleb Downs going to New York. So now the Giants, not having a third round pick, they kind of have to do some thinking here on who they want. And I think this is where they go offensive line. So give me the other tackle out of Utah. Browns went ahead and they got a guard. They went ahead and got Jordan Tyson. Now it's kind of time to focus a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. I think they go ahead and get an edge rusher here. They got Mason Graham last year for D tackle. Myles Garrett needs someone really opposite of him, I believe. I think Quincy Rhodes Jr. Helps that here. He's 6'6", 275. He's a really large guy. And I think that he's going to fit perfectly in that defense. Raiders, like I said, went out and already got Dante Moore. They need help in the secondary. They need help up front too with Max Crosby. But they've shown some flashes. But the secondary hasn't been great. I think they go ahead and they get best corner available in A.J. Harris. Granted, I don't love it, but I think they do need a corner, and I think this is where A.J. Harris goes. So Cardinals went out and got DJ Parker. They need some more O-line help. They need guard and they need offensive line help. They need linebackers, and obviously wide receivers a big glaring need because outside of Marvin Harrison, not really a whole lot there. I like Deion Burks here. Because he's not a super crazy targeted guy within the Oklahoma offense. But he's also a small guy. He's a small guy who can kind of take that place of Zay Jones and be a little bit better. He's younger. He's faster. I think he plugs into this offense very well. You could look Ian Strong. I don't hate Ian Strong. He's a bigger guy. But when you already have Trey McBride, when you already have like the dynamic tight end and the dynamic receiver, when you want to throw a big guy in there, sometimes it makes the offense seem a little too one-dimensional. I think Deion Burks adds another layer. So that's my opinion. I think Deion Burks will go to Arizona. So the Bengals already got Arvell Reese. they need to double down on this defense. And I'm thinking Joshua Josephs. I'm thinking one of these two edge rushers. I'm thinking one of these two edge rushers. I'm thinking of Ugalele as Ugalele. I have no idea. I like all three of these guys. I also love Amari Washington. He's already batted 4 passes. He's a really, really good defensive tackle. But I think I'm going to go Mason Thomas. Need to get the Bengals another edge that actually wants to play and has numbers. Not a super sack guy, but he gets the hurries. He gets the pressure. He is getting to the quarterback. I already said that the Texans went ahead and they're going to go ahead and get Caden Proctor. Now, they focused on the wide receiver core a lot last season, and I think they did a great job. What does Houston need now at this point? You could look at a guy like Anthony Hill Jr. at that linebacker core, who is a very good linebacker. You could look at, like I said, if Christian Miller was there, you could look tackle, you could look edge, you could look linebacker. Obviously, you have questions about the running back position because of Joe Mixon, because of Nick Chubb. Woody Marks is now in this rotation. I don't know how much you want to add to that. But what I will agree with is that the Texans do need some more help on the defense. Given that he's here, I think Amari Washington kind of makes a little too much sense. Getting another true disruptive defensive tackle here makes a whole lot of sense for me. So like I said, Ravens went ahead and got Peter Woods earlier in the mock. This is where I think that Anthony Hill Jr. goes. I think Anthony Hill Jr. pairs up here nicely. I thought about Deontay Lawson, but I'm not high on him like I am high on Anthony Hill Jr. because that is not great. And I get it. 600 defensive snaps, 11 missed tackles. 600 defensive snaps, 11 missed tackles. 309. That's not the season you want to be having going into your draft. I'm going to go Anthony Hill Jr. here. So Falcons, this is their first pick. They need some help. Obviously, offensive line play has been very shaky for Atlanta this year. On top of that, the corners haven't been great. Atlanta, it says they always need a wide receiver. They don't need a wide receiver. They're fine. And they need defensive line help because they need help getting to the quarterback. Outside of the Minnesota game, I haven't really seen a whole lot of like super high pressure, super high tackle games. What I do think needs to happen is I think they need to bolster the middle of the field. That's where they get hurt the most. And this is where I think Deontay Lawson goes. Now the Texans have pretty much back-to-back picks, 2 separating, and obviously they both went LB. One thing I do like about the Texans' position here is they have a lot to choose from, which is fantastic. It's great for them. But what I will say is I would like to see more flexibility from the Texans. And one thing I think they need to go ahead and do is just double down on the offensive line. And they need to go ahead and get another tackle here. Now the Jets, you got D-line, you got wide receiver, you got quarterback. You need someone who is going to help defend the pass because obviously you have no more sauce. Rod Moore is someone who I think can go ahead and make that. He doesn't have a whole lot of, obviously not a whole lot of play time. They're projecting him around this spot anyway, this high 40, low 50. I definitely think this guy can help the Jets secondary. Absolutely. I also looked at AJ Haunsley, who is having a better season, arguably. One thing I don't like though Again, for these safeties, man, these missed tackles. And then you look at Rod Moore, 2-5 in his 2023 campaign. Obviously didn't play 2024. So, but he's, you know, he's everywhere he can be. So I like Rod Moore here. Now, Vikings, you went ahead and drafted your offensive position. You know, that's great. You got to go ahead and focus on either the offensive line or a couple of things about this defense. Specifically, corners. Corners have been okay. Safety play, very questionable. One thing I would like them to see is kind of address the interior offensive line a little bit more. If you want to go ahead and get Jake Slaughter, you can. You have a center who's super, super old. If you wanted to go ahead and get outside tackle help, you could. Caleb Tyrion's here. And he's, you know, true left tackle, as true as they get. And for a team like Northwestern, he's pretty... He's pretty stout. So I would like either of these picks. It's just which positional value do you favor more? I think given the Vikings run heavy workload that they like to do, especially in that they're going to go ahead and get Jeremiah Love, I think Slaughter makes a tiny bit more sense here. But I think I'm going to go Tyrion. You have a rookie quarterback. This guy's a true left tackle. You want to help. What? Did I say something? Oh, okay. So for the Panthers, I already had them going offense here. They went ahead and got wide receiver. Joshua Josephs now at this point is slipping. And I think they're just going to go ahead and take the best name available. Kansas City Chiefs. They went ahead and grabbed an edge. Great. Position of need. Now, they need a running back bad. Pacheco has been horrible. Kareem Hunt is old. This offense has stifled. They need the most dynamic running back prospect in this draft. And that's Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And now you're the Bears, who are like, dang, we also need a running back. Because DeAndre Swift isn't really cutting it. But, you know, you have Monongai, who has looked fantastic. One thing I do want the Bears to go out and get, though, is a linebacker. To kind of get some of this pressure off of Tremaine Edmonds. Because Tremaine Edmonds is old. I like CJ Allen here. CJ Allen has been a huge part of this Georgia defense. Huge. I think he fits in very nicely in Chicago. Jacksonville, this is their first pick, but they have 3 third-round picks to kind of make up for it. One thing I would like Jacksonville to do is get an edge rusher. They cannot attack the football defensively. This is where the Oregon prospect goes. Now, Steelers already got a safety. You need a wide receiver. You can look Ian Strong, or you can look Isaiah Surratt. I think both of these guys are great. Now it's just, what do you value more? 6'2", 213, 6'3", 211. Very similar size, very similar stats. You can look at Chris Bell all you want. I don't think he's on par with these guys. I think if I am the Steelers picking here, I'm picking one of these two guys. And honestly, given the production for the situation, I'm taking Ian Strong. Personally, I think Ian Strong in a not offensively dynamic system compared to Indiana has put up very good numbers. Detroit, they already got a corner. They need more defensive help. They also need offensive line help. The offensive line has been teetering. It's kind of young, but it's got pieces that are kind of old. Not really anyone that I like here at the tackle position for the Lions. Interior, like I said, Jake Slaughter's still there. You could go Jake Slaughter. And the Lions have a history of doing this. This would be throwing him in with Tate Ratledge, who is a rookie currently, but Tate Ratledge has looked great so far. This would really bolster the middle of your line with Jake Slaughter. I think he's a super talented player. And like I said, he's obviously not as highly rated as others would have him, but I think he's very good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Slaughter with the Lions. Chargers, they already went and got an edge rusher. They definitely need more safety help. They need a little bit more secondary help. And I think this is where Halsey goes. Niners went ahead, like I said, again, edge rusher. But they need pretty much the same thing as the Chargers. They definitely need some interior line help. And DJ Campbell, man. I'm thinking, you know, it really starts to thin out here. But then you get to Logan Jones. Logan Jones is having a great season as the Iowa center. He's having a fantastic season. And I don't really agree with this. He should be up here. I don't know why he's plummeting. Like, at all. I honestly wholeheartedly think that Logan Jones ends up in San Francisco. I don't know why he's rated so low. He's having a fantastic season. Green Bay, first pick, one glaring need, wide receiver. I don't think you need to rethink this. You do need a corner, but your offense needs a dynamic playmaker. Elijah's there. Go ahead and take him. So the Bills already addressed the corner. One thing they do need, though, is more pressure. Joey Bosa's older. He's pretty much on a rental. Gabe Jacques out of Illinois. He's having a very productive year. And he's also played very well across the entire defensive line. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Seahawks went ahead and bolstered the interior of the offensive line. I'm looking at Chris Johnson here. Chris Johnson has one of the highest rated corners within college football. Do you see that passer rating? 17.5. 17.5. That's insane. Look at that trend. 98 last season, 79 2 seasons before. 17.5 passer rating against. That's insane. It feels like a no-brainer. It just does. So, Rams already addressed the tackle. They already addressed the quarterback. Like I said, they already go ahead and draft Sam Leavitt here. One thing I would like the Rams to go ahead and get for the future is another safety. And I'm looking at Kamari Ramsey out of USC. He plays everywhere. And I think the Rams would definitely use him to his potential, being a California guy already. I said that they're going to go ahead and get Carnell Tate. I still believe that decision. Now I'm kind of looking at some other tight ends here. I think, you could look at Jack Endries. You could look at Max Clare. But I'm looking at Joe Royer out of Cincinnati. Not a whole lot rated compared to the other guys. But 15.5 yards of reception. You look at these guys, 10 yards of reception, 8 yards of reception. The Vandy tight end is also very good. I'm thinking Eli Stowers as well. It's really between these two. Michael Trigg, 15 a reception as well, out of Baylor. Baylor has a very dynamic offense. But what I like about Joe Royer specifically, 6'5", 250, 6'4", 235, 6'4", 240. Definitely the taller guy. Maybe here it might be a little bit of a reach, so I'm probably going to go Eli Stowers. But I really like Joe Royer for any team that needs a tight end in the third round. Get out of my fucking chat. Now, Tampa Bay. It says that Tampa Bay needs a tight end. I don't really understand how true that is because Cade Otton exists. Not really super sure about that opinion. But one thing I do know that they need is another edge. They need another guy to go after the quarterback. I'm looking at Anthony Lucas out of USC. 3 sacks, 9 hits, 7 hurries. And like I said, they play this guy everywhere. Normally, he's outside tackle, but he's pretty much played everywhere. He's a big guy, too. He's almost 300 pounds as an edge rusher. He's a big guy. I really like him. New England went ahead and got a wide receiver. One thing I think they are going to go get is a safety to replace the Kyle Duggar, because Kyle Duggar did leave. I think they're going to go ahead and get Dylan Thieneman. I think he's a really good pick. Eagles went ahead and drafted wide receiver. You have a couple other options you need to address. One thing I do think you need to go out and get, though, need to go get a big defensive lineman. 6'1", but he's 335. He's a fucking wall. Dante Corleone is a wall. And he would be very nice next to Jordan Davis. Cincinnati, this is your first pick, you know. One thing that they just went out and did is got Sauce Gardner. But the linebacker core is pretty shaky. They're rocking with Jermaine Pratt. He got a clean-ass name. Yeah, Dante Corleone, yes he do. I am looking at Tareen York. This is a guy who plays everywhere. And if they're going to keep Lou Anarumo around, which I think they are, Lou Anarumo would have fun with this guy. He's 5'10", but he's 230. And he does get those D-line reps. Not only that, look at the tackle splits across his entire A&M career. That's beautiful. Saints, I think they have to go offensive line here. And I think they go Nicky Prongos, who's not my favorite pick, but what he is he's versatile. He's definitely not my favorite pick, but I think he's versatile, and that's what the Saints need. I think the Tennessee Titans here now take a wide receiver. They've already drafted line on both sides of the ball. They want to get Cam Ward some playmakers. I think you go ahead and take Chris Bell here. The Eagles have another pick right after this. They already have addressed D-line. They already addressed wide receiver. One thing I do want them to go get, though, is a defensive edge. And you can look down this list. Derek Moore's here, and he has been amazing for the Wolverines. I think Derek Moore goes here pretty convincingly. Dolphins already addressed the line, like I said, both sides of the ball. Chandler Rivers, though, he's been a really good QB for Duke. A huge get, and he plays. Like I said, these guys play everywhere. These versatile guys are loved. He's 5'10", he's 185, he's kind of on the shorter side, but the Dolphins also need a fast, quick corner. They could go Keith Abney, who I also really like, but personally, I think Chandler Rivers is better. The ADP says otherwise, but I think Chandler Rivers is better. So the Texans have already addressed all these needs on the offensive and defensive line. One thing I think they need to also address, like I said, is running back position. It says this here, but they have all these guys. You have to think about it at least, and there are some names here where you could. Or you couldn't. One thing I do want them to go out and get is another corner opposite Derek Stingley, and they have great corners in their roster. They do. But I want them to go out and be locked down. This is where I think Keith Abney goes, right after Chandler Rivers. So you went out and you got Quincy Rhodes in the second round. You got these two great first-round picks, but you want to give more to these younger quarterbacks. Jacoby Lane in this offense just makes too much sense. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. These quarterbacks already love their tight ends. Why not give them a really big wide receiver? Jacoby Lane here makes, in my opinion, way too much sense. The Raiders, Dante Moore and A.J. Harris. But you still need to focus on the D-line and the linebackers. Dominique Orange isn't a pressure guy. Or he isn't a sack guy, but he's a pressure guy. 6'4", 325. And he is a very large... Here. Dominique... Who did I just say? Dominique Orange? Dom and Neek. And this is what I wanted. I've seen a little bit of him play. Here, we're gonna. So there he is. Big guy. I mean, look at that. Look at that leverage pull. This guy's huge. And he is just a shedder, man. Do you see that? That's insane. Big Citrus, they call him, I guess. I think Dominique Orange makes too much sense on the Raiders. Now, you got an edge. You got a wide receiver. Now we got to look at some offensive line help. I really like Gooseby here. I really like Trevor Gooseby. He's given up 2 sacks, but the 2 years prior he hadn't. Obviously, in 2013 he only played 2 games. 2024 he played 8 games. Left tackle, especially with all the quarterback problems within Arizona, if you bring in a new guy, you're going to want a very good quarterback, or you're going to want a tackle who is stronger on that weak side, and Trevor Gooseby is just that. Bengals. We already doubled down twice on the defense. Really, all of the picks should be on the defense, personally. But you do need to address the interior offensive line. I believe Jagusa is a torn ACL as well. Oh no, he broke his humerus. Oh, he was the ATV. Okay, that's what it was. I remember now. He was the ATV incident. I remember. You could look Isaiah World. Orlando Brown has not been great for the Bengals. He has not been great. There's a lot of questions surrounding his play. If you wanted to go Isaiah World here, it makes a whole lot of sense. Blake Miller, again, he has had a very good year at right tackle. If you wanted to roll the dice on him, you could. He's a very large guard at 6'7", 333. I mean, sometimes you do, but you want Cincinnati to kind of take charge in the middle of this offensive line, because it hasn't played great. It's kind of been a revolving door. So I think this is the correct move in Jagusa. Now, the Commanders, like I said, they needed to address the DB. They needed to address, which we did. Now they have to address either linebacker or edge. And I'm looking at Whit Weeks here. He's got a couple missed tackles, but he plays everywhere. He's played more in the slot, obviously, than on the D-line. And that says something for a guy who's 6'2", 225. He's got a nice burst of speed. I've seen a couple games of his. I would be really impressed with Whit Weeks within this defense. And like I said, you aren't really addressing the offensive needs. But this defense has also been horrid. I think pairing him with Delane gives you that chemistry for both of these guys to succeed. They know how each other plays. I think this is it. I think now the Ravens go out and get themselves some offensive help, and I think they go Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard has been one of Ty Simpson's favorite targets recently. He's 6'1", 204. He's kind of on the shorter side, but I think he's really dynamic, and I think he would fit well here. I would really like the Falcons to go and kind of reach on a tackle here. I think Isaiah World would be great. This would be on the strong side of Penix because he's a lefty. So I think getting someone else in front of him would be great. Oh yeah, the Dolphins. This is via Houston. So I think now is the time you replace your wide receiver. Tyreek Hill's not coming back. CJ Daniels is here. Go ahead and just take him. Now, we start to get into conversations with Pittsburgh. They didn't draft quarterback yet. They need a quarterback. You have 2 guys in Nussmeier and Lenora Sellers on the board. Nussmeier obviously has been the better of the two. 6'1", 205. And he's been the better passer. Lenore Sellers, 6'3", 240, and he's more athletic. What have the Steelers historically done? They like their pocket passers. They're going to take Nussmeier. Now you have the Vikings who, like I said, we already got them some O-line help. We got them some help with the running back. Now we got to look at a couple other things. They need offensive line. Not really a guy I like for them this early. Maybe Laiolu. Maybe. This is a guy who shifted around, and given the history of the Vikings injuries, makes sense. Don't really like the Ohio State center here or guard here. There's definitely guys that will be reached on because of, like, just because that's how it works. If you want, you could go Keon Sabb. Harrison Smith is going to be out the door soon just because of age. I think bolstering the secondary isn't a terrible idea. I think the Panthers go ahead and they draft a wide receiver here. I think Nick Anderson is a decent choice. Not because of really his stats, obviously. He's only he isn't the most productive. But what I look at is his size. And they need more of these guys. If you wanted to, you could also go Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. I think he's been great. And honestly, I didn't realize the stat differential was that large between the two, so I'm going to go ahead and take Omar Cooper Jr. Chiefs. Edge and halfback. They need a corner. I'm looking at Dayleen Everett out of Georgia. He gives up a lot of yards. That being said, he he can play around, and I think in a Steve Spagnuolo offense that's really important. You could go Julian Neal here also. Lower passer rating, has the 2 picks on the year, so he's more ball knowledgeable. D'Angelo Pons is also a name who I like. D'Angelo Pons has been great. He's been great in coverage. He has been great, especially in man-to-man. And I think, what is he, 5'9"? He's more on the shorter side. I mean, I've been impressed with him. But honestly, I'm going to go Dayleen Everett here. Bears went ahead and focused on the defense. We're going to go look at the running backs. There's a lot of good running backs on the board. The Penn State duo, Katron Allen, I believe, personally, is the more skilled of the two. That being said, I think Singleton is the better receiving threat, and I think that's what the Bears are going to be looking for here. So I think Singleton's going to go before Katron Allen. I think Katron Allen is still the better rusher. Jags. 3 second-round picks coming out. They already got a edge who I think is going to fit into their system nicely. They traded for Jacoby Myers. They kept Brian Thomas Jr. And they already have Travis Hunter, so I don't see them going wide receiver here. They also love Parker Washington. What I will see them going here is Max Clare. I think they're going to go ahead and get a tight end. They're going to bolster this offense a little bit more. Max Clare was the number 1 transfer tight end, but I do like what I have seen out of him. Sorry, just okay. Steelers. You went ahead and got Nuss. You got a wide receiver. You got a corner. Need a tackle. You need to bolster the offensive line. Blake Miller here, I believe, is a great choice. Now, the interior offensive line choices for the Jags aren't super, standoutish. You definitely have some worries. Because you're worried about reaching, you don't want to do things too out of turn. But DJ Campbell at right guard seems like the best interior offensive line help for not only this entire offense, but specifically Travis Etienne. He has been getting a lot of really good production, but I think that could really help him, and therefore Trevor Lawrence, if they're going to be a better blocker. I think this is where the Chargers have to start making some decisions about what they want to prioritize. We already got edge and safety, but there's definitely a couple other positional players down here who they would most definitely be interested in. Wide receiver room is a little crowded right now, so so I'm not going to say Nick Anderson. Tight end room is always kind of a revolving door. They have their new rookie who has just become a massive part in this offense. I'm sorry, someone just... What I will say, though, is one thing that I think the Chargers need to invest a little bit more in is the corners. And like I said, Julian Neal, great corner. Okay, this might be a little out there. The Niners have been so riddled with the injury bug, especially when it comes to quarterback. It makes me think of, do they need to just draft a guy to be ready in case Brock Purdy once again goes down? And I think they do. And honestly, this is where I see Lenore Sellers going. I think he's going to drop. And I think that the Niners are going to have to draft a guy because Brock Purdy has not had a clean career in San Francisco. They need someone who is dynamic, who is mobile, and who can be that true backup. They can do the whole 1 year backup quarterback thing, but honestly, they need to have a guy who is on standby. And I think that's Lenore Sellers. Green Bay, you drafted a wide receiver. You desperately, desperately need a corner. Like, cornerback helps so bad. And like I said, I'm really high on D'Angelo Pons. I think he would be a great slot corner in Green Bay. Buffalo, we already had them draft a corner and a edge. Obviously, linebackers help is a big need. That would be huge for them. Excuse me. They could also double down. They could do some defensive line help. But I really want to see Buffalo go out and get a wide receiver. I like Shakir, but I kind of wish there was more. Keon Coleman, obviously not it in Buffalo. He's not having a good season. I think a third-round pick isn't a terrible thing for a championship-ready team to go spend. And I'm looking at Antonio Williams. Antonio Williams, only the one touchdown on the year. I believe he's hurt. Oh, it was a hamstring in the season opener. That's what it was. Okay, but he's back now. Yeah, I think Josh Allen likes these shorter receivers. That's why Elijah Moore thrives in this offense. That's why Shakir thrives in this offense. I think that getting Antonio Williams will be good. You're getting him for a pretty good price. Seahawks, they drafted a center. They drafted a quarterback. Still have to address the linebacker problem. Jake Galladay, this dude has been great. He has been one of the best tacklers in the nation, already at 54. Huge. That's a huge, huge, huge tackler. I want to see where. Okay. Yeah. I definitely think, and they like their Cincinnati guys up there. So. I think 10 more picks and then we're done. The Rams have definitely gotten a lot of value. One thing I do want them to go get is just another wide receiver. I don't want your wide receiver 3 to be Tutu Atwell. I think you go ahead and you take a shot on Nick Anderson. You look at his size, 6'4", 208. That's a really big target. I definitely think he would add a lot of versatility to the offense. I think that's a get here. Broncos need to address the linebacker position as well. And you're kind of getting thin down here. What I will say is Austin Romaine, he's been very good. 18 missed tackles. He has a very big missed tackle problem. But when he does connect, he connects well. And you saw that against T-Tech. He looked really sharp against T-Tech. You could look Jacob Rodriguez too. Like I said, he also has a very big missed tackle problem. But he plays more on the D-line. but I would go Austin Romaine here personally. I think that he would be a good fit in this Broncos defense. So we already addressed Sonny Styles and Anthony Lucas going to this defense. What I do want the Bucks to get, I thought about it more about getting a tight end. I think this is definitely where getting a tight end seems very valuable. I do like Cade Otton. I do think, however, he's definitely not what he was a couple years ago. And what I want them to get, I want them to get one of these like huge guys. You know, I want to look at how big Cade Otton is. He's 6'5", 247, so he's also a very large guy. But I want them to kind of look in the direction of tight end because Baker does like his tight ends just historically. And I think with Mike Evans nursing this injury and Chris Godwin still nursing this injury and Abuka getting a lot of target shares already, it's going to draw a lot more attention to him as he progresses. It's not that I hate Cade Otton. I want to look him up again. Let's see. Cade Otton's 26. I want to look at the Bucks and their depth chart. Outside of Cade Otton, you know, Payne Durham, Delvin Cup, like, I'm not really high on any of these guys personally. And I definitely think positional value here speaks volumes that tight end is available. I do want to pull on Michael Trigg, though. Michael Trigg is in a very pass-heavy offense like the Bucks have. I think he'd fit very well there. And I'm also going to have the Patriots going tight end as well. I know they also have like holes to address with the offensive line, but given where they are currently drafting, I don't like a lot of these guys. Maybe Caden Green, maybe. But he is, you know, because he is a left guard now playing left tackle for Mizzou, and so he's a versatile guy. You could go Caden Green. I don't hate that. But I don't like the Patriots tight ends either. I don't really like Hunter Henry. He's okay. And if you're gonna give Drake May the opportunity to succeed, get him more threats. I would really like to see Jack Endries go here. The Eagles, 2 defensive line picks back to back. Really need to get someone for the secondary. Earl Little Jr. I really like. He's a really fast guy. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He's really, really quick. Durham is more of a blocking tight end. Yeah. Yeah, I like Earl Little Jr. going to the Eagles. Colts also need a guard. Like I said, there's not really a whole lot of guards here that I would like. You could go Jaden Roberts. I'm not huge on Jaden Roberts. I'm not really high on any of these like lower tier SEC guards. Maybe Adams. I'm not really sure. He's 6'5", 225, 6'5", 13. He's a Bisnodes is a little younger. Jaden Roberts, redshirt senior, so a little younger. I mean, the Colts do need a guard. They do need just not like in the way that like they desperately need one, but definitely more guard depth would help. I think one thing the Colts could also do is replace Adonai Mitchell, because they did trade Adonai Mitchell today for Sauce Gardner. Malachi Fields wouldn't be a bad name to watch. 6'4", 222. They like their big targets. I honestly think Malachi Fields would work here. Not really a whole lot of positions that the Vikings need outside of these. You could go and look at a center if you wanted to, but they kind of thin out really quickly. If you wanted to go Ipani, you could. There's probably another guy who I really like here, and it's Zion Young. Zion Young is a great, great, great defensive edge. And when you pair him with the other pressures that the Vikings need, and the Vikings already have, I think Zion Young here does wonders. Steelers, we got him Nuss. We got him a tackle, a wide receiver, and a corner. One thing I would like them to see them go ahead and do is draft a safety, and Wheatley seems like the guy for that job. Very huge tackler. He plays equal snaps, box, and deep, so I definitely think that he would be good for this defense. And like I said, the Eagles have one more pick. We've really focused on the defense. What I do want them to get, however, is another tackle. Like I said, I'm really high on Caden Green. It says he's a tackle, but he's more of that switch role between guard and tackle. He can play both. Given the Eagles' offensive line getting a little older, I think Caden Green here makes a lot of sense. And last pick, the Jags need more help on the offensive line. There's a lot of defensive line players here that would do a lot of good work. But I'm looking at Xavier Chaplin. He has given up a lot of hurries at that left tackle spot, and you could say, no, we don't want that. You could look at J.C. Davis. He's also done that, but he has a lot more production, a lot less sacks. I think to end this round, J.C. Davis makes a lot of sense to give Trevor Lawrence more protection on that weak side after getting DJ Campbell, who is on the right side, who's more that strong interior presence on that Trevor Lawrence throwing arm. I think J.C. Davis makes sense here. All right. That's what we got. It's analyzing. It's grading. All right. Let's zoom out a little bit here. And we'll go. So this is as it stands. The first round. I went pretty deep with this. Appreciate it. Thank you. This was a pretty deep draft that I did, and this is obviously the first one. I will have more to do. I'm probably gonna do another one when the season ends. Like as soon as the season ends, I'll probably do another one, and I'll actually write up notes for that one. All right. I'll be uploading this straight to YouTube, so if you're watching it there, leave comments. I don't care. People try to hate on my stuff, and whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it.